Dean, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? You know, I keep telling you, you really cannot gauge how good a fighter is until he steps up in competition. And he's fighting against a guy who wants it just as bad as he does, right? I mean, for example, I can give a scout report and I could tell you that a person who hasn't stepped up, you know, he looks pretty good for the level of competition that he's facing. But when it comes to trying to figure out if this guy is a possible pound-for-pound star, we have to see him step up in competition. Like Terrence Crawford said when he was talking about Gennady Golovkin. He said the kid looks good, he's strong and everything, but we don't know how good he is until he gets in the ring with someone who's going to fight back. And we seen that tonight when Rances Barthelemy went against Denis Shafikov. We also seen that when Anthony Joshua fought against an undefeated, very tough Dylan White last week. These are the type of fights that we need to see before we start saying someone is pound for pound, one of the best fighters in the world, etc., etc. This Barthelemy versus Shafikov fight was a very, very good matchup. And if you really think about it, it was a classic matchup because it was a Cuban fighter versus a Russian fighter for a title. You know, fans often talk about the big rivalry between Mexico and Puerto Rico. But this rivalry, Cuba versus Russia, is a big rivalry as well. Because if you guys are familiar with the amateur rankings, the Cubans and the former Soviet Union countries, they dominate the majority of the gold medals when it comes to the Olympics. Now, hopefully, you know, the U.S. will change that, you know, with the new changes in the Olympics, no headgear, etc., etc. But anyway, you really had the best versus the best in the pro rankings going up against each other. You know, it wasn't too long ago that we would only really see good Russian fighters and Cuban fighters in the amateurs. But recently there's been an emergence of Russian fighters, or maybe I should say former Soviet Union fighters and Cuban fighters. So it's good to see these guys going up against each other. It's like watching a gold medal match all over again in the Olympics, right? And this Saturday we're going to get to see another one of those classic matchups when Cubans Unieski Gonzalez will face, I don't even know his name, but it's a Russian undefeated prospect. So that's another one of those matchups. But anyway, let me get to this fight. Barthelemy versus Denis Shafikov. You know, because Denis Shafikov is such a good fighter, I mean, this guy is a really, really talented Russian fighter. Because he was so talented, I have to give Barthelemy all the credit in the world. When you look at what Rances did to this level of competition, I think it's time to at least put him in the top 10 when it comes to the pound-for-pound list. That's how impressive this performance was. Let's talk a little bit about the fight. Now, first off, the fight was looking really close because Barthelemy, who's extremely tall compared to Denis, he was fighting an inside fight. And when he was fighting an inside fight, it was a very close fight because Denis Shafikov is really good on the inside. This man just constantly is throwing punches, but he's throwing punches with speed. He's throwing beautiful combinations, not anything wild. He has a defense when he's fighting on the inside. It's not just reckless aggression, right? It's intelligent aggression. So even though he rarely caught Rances with any clean shots, I mean, a lot of the punches that he was throwing, they were either hitting air or they were bouncing off of Rances' arms. But because he was so busy, it made some of those rounds look close. And Barthelemy, like I said, who didn't even have to, He could have stayed on the outside the whole night. He could have just pulled off a Edislani Lara, just fought from distance, and he would have won the fight easy. But Rances, he decided, or he elected, to fight on the inside. And he did really good on the inside. He just made the fight closer than it had to be. Now, later on, close to the championship rounds, this is when Rances just completely pulled away from Denis. He switched gears, and then he started to box. But when he uses foot movement, Rances Barthelemy does, it's the most beautiful foot movement you will ever see in the ring. The reason why I say this, because some fighters, when they use foot movement, what they'll do is they'll just move around the ring for a good 30 seconds without throwing any punches, and then they'll try to jump in with combinations. But see, that's not what Rances does. Rances, he gets into this rhythm where it's as if he's dancing in the ring with a partner. He'll take a couple steps back, and then he'll take steps forward and catch you with a two-piece or a three-piece or a good jab. Then he'll move to the left and catch you with something. Then he'll move to the right and catch you with something, right? With Rances, he's punching just as much as he's moving. As opposed to, like I said, some fighters, they'll move, and then throw a punch or two. Then they'll go back to move, and throw a punch or two. This is not what we're seeing with Rances. With Rances is move, punch, punch, move, punch, move. You got it? So I was really impressed with Rances' performance. It's going to be very difficult for someone to beat him. I mean, he's really talented. He's really tall for his division. He knows how to fight tall. He knows how to fight short. He can fight on the inside. He can fight on the outside. Great lateral movement. He shows a good chin. He shows that he has power. And most importantly, he showed that he can deal with adversity. I'm telling you right now, Denis Shafikov is a very good fighter. And the style that he has, it would give the majority of these undefeated fighters, some of the fighters that some of these fans are calling pound for pound, the best in the world, or top 5, top 10. Denis's style would give a lot of those guys all the problems in the world and probably would end up beating those guys. I'm just saying his style. I'm not going to say him because, you know, he's in a different division than a lot of these other fighters. I'm just saying that type of style is one of the most difficult styles out there to beat. A fighter who is very aggressive, very accurate, but on top of all of that, he has defense. Very dangerous combination. So once again, congratulations to Rances. I look forward to seeing a lot more of him. Very exciting style, very dominant style. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.